Well, it has been a privilege for me to be with you. Thank you for all your words of encouragement. Pray for me. If you think of the name Paul Tripp, here's what to pray. Pray that I will live what I teach. I am more and more aware of the gap between what I say and what I struggle to live. And do pray for Luella. There's a lot of sacrifice. For a ministry wife. And I'm married to my hero. She is deeply more mature than I am. We almost have a parental relationship. I've learned to be okay with that. I do say to her often, and she doesn't mind me saying this, "Okay, Mom, you're right." I do argue with her at points where I know I'm wrong in the beginning. So pray for Luella. She lives with the real me. Well, I want to get practical with you. As if what I've said so far isn't practical. And I want to actually answer the question, what does it look like for you to be a woman who helps women? What does that mean? I am very afraid that we throw these things around and we give assent to them, but we really don't understand where the rubber meets the road, what it actually looks like. What does that lifestyle actually mean? And I want you to turn your Bibles to Colossians 3, beginning with verse 12. This is a passage that comes across as being incredibly radical. It's a radical passage to us. But if we were to study our way through Colossians and you get to these verses, there's no prediction by Paul that he's about to say something radical. He doesn't say, "Okay, people, take a deep breath. This is crazy radical stuff," because it wasn't intended to be radical. It's radical to us because of how far we have moved away from the lifestyle that's in this passage. Does that make sense? And so we've drifted so far, I'm talking about the Church of Jesus Christ, from the norm that's in this passage, that the norm of this passage seems incredibly radical. So having said that, fasten your seatbelts and put on your crash helmets. Here we go. Put on then as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience, bearing with one another, and if one has a complaint against another, forgiving each other, as the Lord has forgiven you, so you must also forgive. And above all these, put on love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. And let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you were called in one body, and be thankful. Let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, teaching and admonishing one another in all wisdom, singing psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs with thankfulness in your hearts to God. And whatever you do in word and deed, do everything in the name of the Lord Jesus, giving thanks to God the Father through him. Now let's look at the first few verses. Put on then as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, compassionate hearts, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience, bearing with one another, and if one has a complaint against another, forgiving each other as the Lord has forgiven you, so you must also forgive. And above all these, put on love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. Now, why that list of character qualities? Notice the passage is written to every believer. This is God's plan for 10 out of 10 people in this room. No exceptions. There is no one who has been given God's grace, who is intended by God just to be a recipient of grace? No one. Was that loud enough? No one. The Church of Jesus Christ is shockingly passive. Shockingly. The studies say that 80% of the monies that are contributed to Christ Church are contributed by 20% of the people. There was a study not too long ago that actually proposed in evangelical churches, 10% of regular attenders have never put a penny in the plate. I don't care what size your church is. If it's a church of 50 or 5,000, you will never hire enough ministry professionals to cover all the spiritual needs of any given week, of any time in the life of that church. It won't happen. So this is God's total involvement paradigm. That's what it is. All of God's people are called to this. And we have to stop the drift. It's hurting us. The church is not meant to be a place where you can find ministry. The church is meant to be itself an organic ministering community. There's a huge difference. You can feel my passion. In a real way, I've given my life to proclaiming this message. Now, why these character qualities? Why did Paul come up with this list? Where did he get this list? You can talk, it's legal. Well, where did he get this list? Well, the fruits of the Spirit. Well, where'd that come from? It's the character of Christ. Now, once you say that, you know your position in the work of God. Literally, using the example of clothing, Paul is saying, put on Christ. You carry Christ to one another. It makes me weak in my knees when I say it. Bring Christ to one another. Yes, it is true. Jesus is the answer. What he's saying is, all of us, every person, has been called and positioned by God to be his ambassadors. Everyone in this room has been called to be an ambassador of the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. Now, what is the only thing an ambassador ever does? Represent. This is amazing to me. The invisible King intends to make himself visible through his people who carry his presence to one another. How amazing is that? It boggles my mind when I say it. The invisible grace of God is meant to be made visible as people who have received that grace now carry that grace to one another. Welcome to your employment. I'm serious. Every day, you are called to be the look on the face of Jesus, to be the tone of his voice, to be the touch of his hand, to be his gentleness, his patience, his forgiveness, and his love. People need to see Jesus. 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 Because what happens is my sin looms large in front of me and it defeats me. The problems of life get me down and they cloud my vision of the one who is my hope. I need you to carry Jesus to me. I need it all the time. I need it. Because no one this side of eternity is a grace graduate. I need it. I need people in my life who are the voice of Jesus, who are to me the love of Jesus, who are the hand of Jesus. That's what I need. Now, I would just like to say to you, you have no ability at all to do what I just described. None. None. You just don't have any ability. Don't say, yeah, I'm going to do that. Because you'll be one scary Jesus. If you think you can do this, you won't be reflecting Jesus. You'll be reflecting something. But it won't be Jesus. You see, people of grace who intend to carry grace will be driven to the throne of grace in order to give that grace. That's the way it works. People of grace who have been given grace will be driven to the throne of grace in order to be able to carry that grace to one another. Because you can't do it. Get the CD. People of grace. Did you get that? I'm giving you grace right now. Who intend to carry that grace will be driven to the throne of grace in order to be able to give that grace to others. Now this brings us to this point. There's really only two ways of living. There really is. You live as owner of your life, or you live as an ambassador. And this just blows apart our normal conceptions of ministry. Here's our normal formalistic view of ministry. I own my little life, and I step out of my life as an act of submission to God, and I give Him a little piece of my life, hero that I am, for an episode. Short-term missions, me. I went to Africa and built stuff. Shared the gospel today. And so you give God an episode of your life, and then you step back out of ministry, back into your life. That's not a biblical view of ministry. Hold on to your seats. Your life is ministry. Every dimension of your life, every dimension of human life is a forum for ministry. Now, you have to ask yourself the question right now, if we would watch the video of your existence, would we see an owner or an ambassador? Oh, I find that so convicting. I would like to think of myself as an ambassador. I told you that my family would take these vacations to the Jersey Shore. And we still gather as a family every summer for a week. I have 4 children, 3 boys. They're all married. My daughter, Nicole, is not married. And we're a foodie family, and we cook for one another. And it really is amazing, the food we eat. My contribution that week, because I like to make things that our kids remember that I would make for them because I love to cook, is the world's best cinnamon rolls. No, there is no competition. These are the best. These are an edible glory. I don't know about you, but I love how much of the glory of God in creation is edible. I just do. And I know what's going to happen. I will get up earlier before anyone else, and I will make the rolls, and I'll put them in the oven, and that gorgeous smell will start wafting down the hallway. And my children will begin to rise out of their beds and say, "My life is worth living because Paul Tripp is my father and he makes rolls." I know what's going to happen. It's predictable. The angels sing. And so I've made the rolls. They're in the oven, and I'm now positioned myself in a chair that sort of can look down the hallway because I'm ready for the worship that's going to come. My oldest son, Justin, comes down the hallway, and I'm getting ready for him to kneel. And he says these words to me: "Dad, do you mind if I make something else for breakfast?" I'm having trouble even processing the words at that point. I want to say, "Of course I mind. What are you talking about?" And then he says this: "My wife interloper that she is in this family, doesn't like to eat things so sweet for breakfast." Some people just can't recognize glory. And he says, "So I'd like to make her some eggs." Eggs. Eggs. Scrambled eggs. Beaten apart former embryos. Now, I would like that not to bother me, but it does. I'm mad. I'm personally offended. And when the rolls are done, we're sitting at breakfast, she positions herself right in front of that pile of glory. You know, most people don't think you can actually hear the sound of people eating scrambled eggs, but I could. It sounded like this to me. I can't believe it. And I just know she's will break down, and she'll just pull a piece of one of those rolls off and say, "Oh, father-in-law, I was wrong. You are right. I curse my eggs. I run to your rolls." But she doesn't. Now you get the point? That's all about me. It's all about my glory. It's all about what I want. It's all about me being the sinner. It's all about me being right. It's all about me having control. It's fundamental, scary, anti-gospel meism. Sad. I am so busy loving me, I have no time to love Jesus or to reflect the love of Jesus to the life of those people. Listen, you know that's your struggle. And so as you accept your ambassador calling, you say, Jesus, I have no ability to do this, but I am not alone. You have literally unzipped me and got inside of me by your Spirit. Oh, by the power of the Spirit, in some way today, help me to be your ambassador. And that's a beautiful thing, because hear this, no one then gives grace better than a person who's deeply persuaded they need it themselves. It's that accepting the grandeur of this calling that drives you to the throne of grace, that makes you thankful for grace and desires to give grace to someone else.